$200 million. No, we're not talking about government waste. We're talking about something really good. And you're going to find out about it from Gail Romero tonight on Public Exposure. I'm Stan Emmert. And the $200 million, Gail, we'll have to save that for a little bit later. Gail, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Stan. Great to be here.
So you are the Romero of McKinseyRomero.com. What is it that you do?
We're a consulting firm. There are 8 of us across the United States, and we work with nonprofits and some startup companies to help them figure out how they can be the very best that they can be. Anywhere from fundraising to fundraising audits to capital campaigns. So we're quite busy.
And you also teach over at Seattle U.
I teach occasionally at Seattle U. And
what do you teach when you're there?
Fundraising principles, ethics in the fundraising, and you name it, I seem to get my finger in it.
Okay, well, let's talk about Aristotle then. You can't talk about fundraising unless you talk about Aristotle. Here we are. Aristotle, 384 to 322 BC. Long time ago, he said this: "To give away money is an easy matter and in any man's power, but to decide to whom to give it and how large and when and for what purpose and how is neither in every man's power nor an easy matter." Wow, fundraising and charity and nonprofits has been that long ago.
You know, it's amazing, Stan. You can find history about fundraising going back all the way to Aristotle and further, because it has always been sort of human nature to want to care for those people who need help. And in our own country, back in the 1600s, when we first came to North America, we started out the same way. Interestingly, what we see today, which is the tax-exempt status that a 501c3 organization has, started because of Queen Elizabeth and the Elizabethan Poor Law.
Yeah, I think we've got this up on the screen. Was that the Statute of Charitable Uses?
That was the Statute of Charitable Uses, which was the precursor to the Elizabethan Poor Law, where basically the Queen Elizabeth said, if you will take care of the poor, we will not make you pay taxes to the crown. And so that started basically the same principles that we use in the United States today.
So way back 1500s, 1600s, the government of England was saying to organizations, you do stuff that government doesn't want to do and business can't do, and it was just churches, or it was more than churches? It
started out with just churches, but it has expanded obviously to organizations that provide basically the safety net. You've got government here, and government does have some programs. Of course, we know now that government is strapped economically because of the tight budgets. And then we've got businesses over here, and we know that businesses are strapped. And we've had this 501c3, or some people call it the independent sector, others call it the nonprofit sector, others call it NGOs, but they've been the safety net that have protected those people who can't necessarily take care of themselves.
So I'm confused here. Are you a social worker? Are you a business person? Just what are you?
Well, my background is in sales and marketing and business and communications. But I used to donate my time to nonprofits all the time to help them figure out how to do good business, because it's the toughest sell in the world is to sell someone an intangible. And a nonprofit is really goodwill, but there's no product necessarily. And so I used those skills to help nonprofits, and then decided to become a CFRE and go to university and get my master's in nonprofit management.
Okay. In preparing for the show, you said there's a word that I've got to know, and I can't even pronounce it. Let's just get it up on the screen. There's a book, and it starts with
Philanthrocapitalism.
There's a picture of Warren Buffett and Bill Gates and others up on the screen. And a foreword by Bill Clinton. So what is this?
It's the business of the nonprofit industry. It is the important aspects of capitalism, if you will, that comes from philanthropy. And if you look at our country and you look at what we've been able to accomplish, we started out with the agricultural revolution. And from the agricultural revolution, we went to the manufacturing revolution. And from there, we went to the technological revolution. And now we have this philanthrocapitalism revolution, which is philanthropy.
So we're in a revolution right now about philanthropy, and What is this? Is this just a bunch of do-gooders running around, you know, trying to save the world?
You know, it's interesting. It's a huge economic engine. And even though it isn't measured as far as our GDP, it has hundreds and thousands of individuals in the United States that are employed through nonprofits. 1 in 10 individuals right now in the United States are part of nonprofit or connected to a nonprofit in some manner.
1 in 10?
1 in 10.
So, but you can't say, though, that 10% of our GDP is tied to nonprofits, but it's pretty large.
Well, it's interesting because they just did a study, an economist did the study, and he's trying to figure out what happens with every dollar that goes into the nonprofit sector. And is that just a still dollar? It doesn't, meaning it doesn't promote any other economic growth. But in fact, what we're finding is for every dollar that's invested in the nonprofit sector, it actually breeds about $9 into the economy.
1 to 9.
1 to 9.
So, do you have any idea what what it is with government or with businesses?
You know, I don't know those numbers.
Okay, but definitely $1 spent in the nonprofit sector, it means $9 to, you know, worth to the economy. That's huge.
It is, and that's the important thing that I think we really need to focus on, particularly in our own state government as well as in our national government, that this idea of taking away the tax benefits for individual taxpayers is really a bad decision because it could impact that dynamic investment that we have in our economy.
Okay, tell me what you mean by that.
Well, if we've got, for every dollar invested, and we know that it breathes $9 into our economy.
This is a nonprofit dollar.
A nonprofit dollar. That's a pretty good economic engine.
Yeah.
And we can't afford to stop that.
All right, now you said you were a CFRE. CFRE, what does that stand for?
It's a Certified Fundraising Executive. It's a certification that is bestowed upon someone who has been in the business and of fundraising for over 5 years, who has been published, who has raised over $1 million, and who has continued to be educated and work within the industry.
So we've got up on the screen, and we started the show out with $200 million. What is that? You've raised almost $200 million, is that right?
I'm closing in on $200 million, yes.
Wow. I mean, how do you do that? I mean, is it for one client, if you will? Is it for a bunch of clients? Is it for only the biggest or big, small? How do you do that?
Well, it's a team sport. It takes great boards. It takes great team leadership within an organization. It takes individuals. So it's not something that you do alone. It's definitely something that you do with an organization, and sometimes many organizations come together to do it as a group.
Would your approach be the same for a group like Operation Rescue, for example, of a small nonprofit that works, you know, primarily with homeless people, versus a biomedical research facility? And what we're going to do is we're going to take a break, and so I'm going to let you think about that one.